this standard should happen, or this technology, what this technology is doing, or what's happening in this physical system, and he might sometimes he might say, I think we know plenty about that. I'll say, I think we don't know enough about that, or vice versa. I'll say, I think we know that. I'll say, I don't think we know that, or so there's that level.
Yeah, we disagree sometimes, in when we're writing a paper or report. And I'll say, I don't need a reference for the sky, it's blue. And Brett will say, yes, you do. I'm being facetious, but
things like that. Yeah.
So, but those are kind of like really very
we actually
technical.
really love each other deeply.
I mean, they're really silly things, right? They're nothing material.
Most important indoor air quality issue in America today? Let's do that. What's the most important?
Okay, it's probably still cigarette smoking from a health perspective. I think it's probably doing the most damage. But if you measure outdoors, right?
They may be way too low in America.
Yeah, they're not realistic.
And we don't even have really a single standard in America.
All right. So if it's not radon and it's not smoking?
No, I actually think it is.
What's the thing that is the most important?
Well, I think it is radon and smoking, and actually, I'm glad you brought those up because I'm glad you brought those up because I think that we think of those things as problems that have been solved because we've done the research.
Right. Oh, there's regulations.
So we know that smoking is harmful. Most people, even most smokers, know that smoking is bad for them and for the people around them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
And we have a lot of workplace regulations where you can't smoke at work, you can't smoke in public buildings, you can't smoke in restaurants and bars and all these other things. But the home is still a place where you can smoke.
Sure.
And a lot of people do it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons, and it's still some people know they're doing harm, but
so
they're
we know
addicted.
a lot about smoking. So is it radon then? Because
so radon, same thing. We know radon is harmful.
But okay, so do you not think that the way that we have regulations in parts of the country where the radon we know is high, where you have to do things like have a sub-slab depressurization system or something like that? Is that? Are you saying that's not enough? And
to be honest, I don't know whether what we are doing for radon is working as well as it needs to work.
Because we haven't measured it properly.
I don't know if we're getting to enough homes to make the measurements to tell people that they're living in a dangerous environment. Yes, we have a measurement programs. If you care enough to know, you can go on the EPA website and see if you live in one of those areas. It's a high rate.
And it's relatively inexpensive to get a little test kit, right?
And we say it's relatively inexpensive.
But that's just a snapshot, right?
Okay, but if you're living, low income person living in West Virginia or Bakersfield or wherever, okay, Wyoming or something like that, and you have a high school education, and you've heard there's this thing called radon, or maybe you've never even heard of radon, okay? What's going to put a radon monitor in your house to tell you?
I don't think anybody's going to do it.
You're not going to do it, right? So even though it's available, and maybe it gets to the question of what's the personal responsibility versus our responsibility is.
Okay, I was going to ask you that question. Maybe we could disagree about regulation or something, about how far should, say, in California, for example, in new construction we require Title 24, which means that you've got to have an ASHRAE 62 compliant system. Should that be now applied everywhere in new and existing homes? We just make it a requirement, like we have done with smoke alarms and CO alarms, and roll it out nationally, make it a federal regulation?
I don't think so, actually.
No.
I don't think so. I mean, even on I'm actually probably more of a libertarian than you might think.
Oh, you're certainly more of a libertarian than me.
Right?
Yes.
Well, yeah, but you, for sure. So I think from one perspective, you could say, look, any citizen who cares can get all of this information for free and a low-cost test. Okay?
Sure.
And then if they get a number this high, they can go and get follow-up information, whatever. So it's the responsibility of the individual to figure that out.
Is it that low cost to have the air in your home sample to find all the possible health?
No, that's much more.
Not,
I'm just saying for radon. I was taking the case of radon, right?
Okay.
So for radon, so yes, we provided all that information, but are we doing enough to kind of publicize that, to get the message out? In areas with high radon, where we know that there's a lot of people who are probably facing hazardous conditions, does the government have any responsibility, or as a moral responsibility, ethical responsibility, to let people know that they really should get their homes tested?
Sure, but I think many jurisdictions already do that, right? Either for new construction or if you
like
sell your
point of sale.
Point of sale, right? They require either radon testing, and in some places
I think it's true that many do, but I think many don't as well.
Okay.
I mean, I think that there are a lot of again, there are a lot of places in the U.S.
So do you think the radon crisis is a bigger crisis than the particle crisis in homes? If we think that after radon, particles are the next most important thing because they're outdoors and we generate them indoors from all sorts of things. And
so outdoor particles we actually do regulate.
Yeah.
Right?
As you pointed out
in a very serious way. In a very serious way.
They're going to withhold, the funding for roads
in places where there are high particle levels.
But indoors,
there are
anything
plans,
goes, right?
Well, right, and it's an anything goes, exactly. And there are, and in part that's what a lot of those local those local jurisdictions that don't have a requirement to test for radon have decided that they don't want their government to require them to do that.
Okay, but I don't think we should get into an argument about what's more libertarian than not. I'd rather talk about. But if people are watching this and trying to think about, what should I be concerned about in my home, right? I don't think you and I are going to disagree very much about the things, and also what to do about it, right? Even if you can't, let's say you can't afford to monitor your home or pay for somebody else to do it, you can tell people things like you should really use your range hood, right, when you're cooking, or you should buy cleaning products that don't have lots of nasty chemicals in, or I don't know, what other advice would you give to people?
Well, let's before we get off the radon, if you don't
love radon,
if you don't know, if you're listening to this and you don't know whether you have high radon in your house or whether you live in a high radon area, go to the EPA's website and do radon, high radon areas.
Radon.
And figure out if you live in an area that has high radon, and if you do, and you don't know that your house has been tested, look on there. There's good advice to how to get your house tested. Get your house tested because it's a relatively simple thing you can do to know.
Sure.
Okay, so you might as well know. And if you're smoking, don't smoke. But if you want to keep smoking, that's your decision. Don't smoke around other people. Go smoke outside, find a place to smoke, and don't smoke inside when other people are about to come inside because the smoke will stick around after you put the cigarette out. So let's start there.
Okay.
Yeah. Cooking range hood, you want to do range hood?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you could just. There's a couple of things that are important about range hoods, though. It does make a difference whether it just recirculates it back into the kitchen or blows it in your face, or it blows to outside. The ones that work are the ones that blows to outside. I hope you all realize that. And if you have one, use it. And Brett just presented today talking about different range hoods have different efficiencies at getting rid of those pollutants, right?
Yeah.
And it depends on how fast the fan is spinning, all sorts of things. But our general advice is, even if it's not the greatest range hood, use it anyway, because reducing the concentration of pollutants from cooking from 30%, it's still worth doing for a relatively inexpensive, easy to do thing that you already have in your home. Right. At least we hope you do. If you don't have a range hood, you lose.
Well,
but you could
open a window.
Right?
That will help.
Or if you haven't, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if you live in an apartment, turn on the bath fan. Right? If you live in a relatively small place, that bath fan will help increase ventilation.
And you do some dilution.
And you'll remove the pollutants. A simple trick or tip is if you have a range hood, even if it's a low cost, not very great range hood, if you cook on the back burners, your range hood will be much more effective than if you cook on the front burners. So another helpful tip.
So
and the more you cook, use a higher speed. Mostly the low.
We're talking about kitchen and bath fans.
Kitchen bath fans.
They're useful for other things too. Like
use your bath fan when you shower.
Yeah, if you want to get rid of moisture, like you're cooking, you're boiling pasta, or you're showering, turn on those fans because if you get too much moisture, bad things can happen. Yeah. Which we don't want. So definitely ventilate your kitchen and bathroom. Maybe a laundry room. I don't know. Most laundry rooms seem to get an exhaust fan these days. Mm-hmm. But probably yes, I think.
Ventilate when you're doing hobbies. If you're model glues, things like that. Shop work,
soldering,
all those things. We take these things for granted, but maybe it's cold outside. Maybe you need to go do that stuff in the garage, and open a window or something, or crack the door in the garage, and then preferably with some kind of fan that's exhausting from the garage, so you make sure the flow is going the right way. You hate to open the window of the door in the garage and have it just blow right into the house.
Talking about fans, I mean, most of you out there will have some sort of central forced air system in your home, often for heating and cooling. Not everybody. But those of you that do, you're almost always going to have some sort of a filter. And if you put a high performance filter in there, you can actively remove the particles from your home, very much so. Right? And it helps a bit to maybe have some automated system that turns it on for 10 minutes out of every hour, so that if you have several months when you're not heating and cooling, you still get some air cleaning. But I think that the data that you and I have shown previously and in our study shows that that's an incredibly effective way to deal with particles. Even if you haven't used your range hood because you foolishly didn't while you were cooking, right? You can remove at least the particles,
Yes.
right? Because there's other chemical pollutants that we can't deal with putting in a high performance filter. So maybe we can disagree about what level of filter performance is appropriate. What would you put in your house, Brett? Or what do you have in your house? Maybe that's an even better question.
I have a 1-inch filter slot.
Oh. Already you're in trouble.
Interestingly, I have a filter compartment that could accommodate a larger filter, but I'd have to change everything. So it's set up with springs and stuff for to hold a 1-inch filter, so I'd have to change that out. And we use kind of we go to I go to Home Depot, and I buy one that has an electrostatic charge. It's they have a 10-point system or something, and I usually buy the 9. Now we
9 out of 10 sounds pretty good.
9 out of 10 sounds pretty good.
So what fraction?
That costs maybe $10 as opposed to $15 or $20.
So what fraction of the particles that we care about? This PM 2.5 is the term we'll use, right? Because that's what we know. What fraction are you getting rid of with a 9?
And I have no idea. I have no idea. It's something I'd love to do.
Are we going to talk about MERV ratings here? Because you're talking about a filter that doesn't have a MERV rating. So
yes,
for those of you out there in air filter land, a MERV rating is a minimum efficiency rating, and it's basically about how well you capture particles at different sizes. The higher the number, the more particles you capture, and the more particles you capture that are small. So a MERV 16 filter basically is getting just about everything, except for some very, very small things. But unless you have a wide filter, by wide I mean like 2 or 4 inches, your 1-inch filter slot, you can get a MERV 16 1-inch filter, but the pressure drop across that is really
crazy.
big, and it makes your furnace and air conditioner not
even
work
for
properly.
Even for MERV 13, the MERV 13 1-inch filter can have a higher pressure drop, especially if it gets loaded. And I don't worry as much. Maybe I don't know if we even disagree about this. I don't worry so much about indoor air quality.
Did you answer that? So you've got this 9. I usually buy a MERV 11 or a MERV 13 filter because, like you, I only have a 1-inch.
My best guess is that this is probably something in the range of a MERV 11 to 12. I would have to guess at that just by.
So we're both being reasonable men.
They're
right?
reasonable.
We're not being extreme.
Yeah, but I just I don't worry about it so much.
So you wouldn't consider putting in the 4-inch filter slot, like having a contractor come and modify your HVAC system?
No, because
I'm very worried about your boys now. You're exposing them to particles.
That's okay.
Is that bad parenting?
I'm not so worried about it. They're healthy. I'm more worried about them. I'm more worried about whether they're eating enough vegetables, getting varied enough diet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be concerned about particles, right? It's a genuine health issue.
Well, but even
they're everywhere,
so
right?
This is something people might not know. We say, particles are harmful. Particles do all these bad things. Well, the most harmful things that particles are doing, they're doing only to sick people. Okay, so particles kill. We say particles kill people.
You say that, but isn't that that's what the studies have looked at? It's possible that healthy people could be affected too. It's
for sure, it's possible. But
right? So the limits that are set for people who are not so healthy, is right. But that doesn't mean that most
of the stuff that we have is established. Like we know these are the health hazards of particles.
Sure.
Most of that stuff is stuff that's affecting people with some kind of either respiratory or cardiovascular condition that makes them vulnerable or susceptible.
Right.
And thankfully, healthy.
You're not in that
I'm
situation,
a healthy
so
middle-aged adult.
All right.
My teenage boys are healthy. So what I'm really interested in is make sure that they're going out and getting exercise and stretching and eating well.
Well, I suppose if they're outside getting exercise, they're not exposed to all these particles.
They're exposed to the outdoor particles, but I think
that are well regulated, as we mentioned earlier.
Well, we can have high outdoor particles, but if we were living in Beijing or in New Delhi. Okay, I would say that I would really watch to see what the air quality is before I sent them out to exercise. Okay. Because even if you're healthy, if you're exercising with really bad air quality, which could include really high ozone. So even if you and I should not be going out running when there's 120 ppb of ozone. Back in late 60s, early 70s, we had lots of days with really bad air quality in Southern California.
Sure.
Okay, and nowadays the worst days are not nearly. They're kind of like what the average days used to be.
Right, but that didn't happen by magic.
No, it
happened. That happened because things got regulated. Agree about that. I mean, I know I work on the ASHRAE committee that says the standard is only air quality, not comfort, but that doesn't mean I
So
believe it.
the thing I just said, you would agree with, like, you can't
No,
separate
you can't
them.
separate, because nobody does.
Yeah, we don't really
No,
separate
like if
them.
we asked Deborah, right? Deborah, if we asked you, you wouldn't separate it.
The
Okay, how
reality-